Hey guys, what's up? It is week 322. I have a couple of reviews for you, but I want to start this off just kind of let everybody know what the situation is with the channel and everything and what's going on. So I'm pretty sure that I'm getting an ultrasound today for probably another hernia, possibly. I just, my work is a very physical labor job. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in the future. You know, I'll definitely have to have some weeks off. I don't know if I'm going to stay at the same place of employment. It's been a long time. Hell, I don't even know if I'm going to stay where I live. So there's lots of crazy things happening in my life right now. I have been working on kind of a all-end kind of 1980 video, which maybe I'll show you guys a snippet of it. It's kind of like just going to cover the entire year and then go through my top 25 films of the year. Video essay style thing. I'm not going to be on camera. It's all kind of like slightly scripted kind of deal. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I showed the patrons some of it. So I really, there's a lot of question marks. I'll try to get the weekly videos on schedule like I always do, but there'll probably be some changes in the coming weeks. I'm not really sure exactly how everything will go. Wish me luck. It's going to be hard for me not to. I've had a hernia surgery about 10 years ago. It'd be hard for me not to be able to physically do things because I'm a very active person, and I don't ever like asking people for help. So let's hop into the reviews, and the first one up is from Ignite Films. This is their first release, and this has a 4K overseas, I believe, but this is their debut release here, and this is Invaders from Mars from 1953, kind of a sci-fi classic. It was remade in 1986 by, of course, legendary horror director Tobe Hooper by Cannon Films. Crazy film. So the original, you know, I'd heard a lot about it. I knew that it was one of these kind of catalysts to kind of like a subgenre in the you get kind of the sci-fi horror films, right? Aliens invade Earth, Martians invade Earth, because it was a big thing. Martians back in the day. It wasn't just aliens; it was always Martians. So essentially what happens here is there's this really intelligent young kid named David who's obsessed with, you know, sciences and astronomy, all this kind of stuff. So one day he's kind of looking at the stars, and his father and mother come in, and they have a great relationship, the great rapport. They set up the parents before and everything like that. And he sees, before he goes to bed, kind of a spaceship crash land. He's very taken by it. He's scared. He tells his father, and his father is working with directly with kind of like I don't want to say NASA, but something kind of like government facility. So he's intrigued by this as well. He goes out, and when he comes back, he disappears for a while. But when they do eventually find him, he's not right. He's off. So this is 3 years before Invaders of the Body Snatchers, the great Don Siegel film, which is about kind of body snatching and mind taking. I mean, there's early sci-fi 50s movies like Creature with the atom brain where people are kind of taken over and brainwashed, but not like in this sense where there's some sort of alien kind of thing coming from outer space and literally kind of putting like not exactly pod people, but taking their brains over and doing that kind of thing. This is very early for that. So we do have a couple familiar faces. You know, I've seen a couple of these people before. The Colonel in here was in the Giant Claw and some other sci-fi movies playing a very similar character. But what happens is pretty soon that these Martians start to kind of pick people, and they start to be turned, and they have some big agenda. But I do like this because they actually believe the kid, because the kid's got a good reputation. But there's some great moments that are kind of scary in the very beginning, especially when the father has his turn and he slaps the kid. I was just like, oh boy, that would be horrifying, right? Your father's this loving person, and boom, he kind of goes completely nuts. It does remind me a bit of, you know, stuff that would come later, like Aliens Are Coming from 1980, the TV movie, and of course Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all these kind of things, right? Pod people. Anytime people are kind of being taken over. Puppet Masters is probably more like it. The 94, or is it 91? I think it's 94, one Donald Sutherland, where they latch onto the brain, which was, you know, the story which came out around the same time as the Invasion of the Body Snatchers story and everything like that. But what happens is we have a lot of big hurrah, military hurrah, a lot of stock footage of military tanks and all these kind of things. And eventually we have a standoff against the Martians. What's really cool is the way they use the sand, kind of how they take you under the sand, which reminds me of stuff like Tremors or Blood Beach, where that kind of shift in sand and you're sucked under. There's nothing quite scarier than having your actual land taken out from underneath you. So that's really great stuff. And when we actually get to the set designs, that stuff's pretty cool too. I know the director worked really really extensively on bigger films, doing set designs, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And he did a great job. I mean, the Martians are very crazy in this film. They're very large, and they're kind of controlled by this strange, like, head in a jar deal. It's just played by a short woman, a small person, and that's pretty crazy because she's like spray painted like silver, and they give the whole ordeal. Now the remake kind of does crazy on the special effects, and they have Louise Fletcher in there and James Karen and some other familiar faces. I think one of the Bottoms kids, the brothers, is in that movie as the father. But no, this one's really good, really entertaining, very short pace, so short that they had to pad it, and you can tell with the nightmare kind of sequence at the end and all that stuff. And it does, even something like Nightmare City takes a little bit from it if you guys seen Nightmare City. So like I'm telling you, this movie from 1953, and there's like just covering the year 1980 recently. There's so many of these films that were clearly influenced by Invaders from Mars, which and that's just one year in general. If you take it out, so that means how many of these 50s movies were inspired by it, and how many movies later on and throughout every year in the 80s and every year period. So it's a very influential film. This was the first time watch, believe it or not. Now I had seen the remake, and I enjoy the remake, except I think it's a little long in the tooth. This one runs a little long too. It feels like at times. It feels like there's a little padding, and the remake is super long for what it is. But this one is very entertaining because the 50 sci-fi movies really rarely wear out their welcome. Invaders, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is, I think, the quintessential, like, fast-paced sci-fi film, scary, and I put that more as a horror film than this. This is more sci-fi than horror. Well, Invasion, I would put horror than sci-fi because it's so terrifying. But yeah, this is a really entertaining film. The 4K looks pretty good. I mean, the stock footage they use for the tanks is never going to look that good, right? They can't really clean that stuff up very well. But the 4K looks really good, sounds good. There's a slew of features on here as well, which I enjoyed. Of course, we have the brand new 4K restoration. We have interviews with Jimmy Hunt, William Cameron Menzies' biographer James Curtis, and recollections of Menzies' eldest granddaughter Pamela Lewson. And that's great stuff because it talks about his career, how he worked, went to the kind of premiere, the last premiere he went to, all that kind of stuff. And then we have featurette with acclaimed film directors John Landis, Joe Dante, editor Mark Goldblatt, special visual effects artist and two-time Oscar-winning Robert Skoltek, foremost expert on Invaders from Mars, and effects and enthusiast and film preservationist Scott McQueen. And that's good stuff too. I mean, always welcome those people. Goldblatt, Landis, and Joe Dante are fountains of knowledge. And the other guy, he's an expert on it. So they're talking about the movie, how it affected them, how it affected culture, all that kind of stuff, which you'd like to hear. Then we have John Sayles, introduction at Turner Classic Movies Festival in Hollywood, April 2022. John Sayles, of course, writer of Alligator, directed a slew of other great films. Before and after clips of restoration, original negative, and archival film elements with film restoration supervisor Scott McQueen, restored in segments in 2K of the alternate international version, alternate ending, and extended planetarium scene. So and then we also have a gallery, and we have a booklet. So it's a very nice release. I like what this company's doing. Hopefully they keep at it, and we see some more really good 4Ks and everything. So, and always welcome 50s sci-fi movies because as outlandish as they are in 1950, they sure do predict the future. And sometimes the future is very scary and very bleak. Next up, it's going to be a patch here. It's the Weekly Western.
Let's go. Why not?
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Say when.
Feel I'm knocking upon heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Hey, kitty, you bastard! It's you and I!
I don't deserve this.
So I'm sure you guys haven't seen that intro in a long time, but this is for a box set here, Blood Money from Arrow Films. I love when Arrow does these box sets, except they are time-consuming. So I tackled the whole thing all together. Has 4 films in here, of course. We have $1,000 Blood Money, Vengeance is Mine, Find a Place to Die, Matalo, or Kill Him. So let's start with the first one here, and this stars legendary kind of Italian actor, leading man, Gianni Garco from the Sartana films. He's in a slew of others. He's in Lucio Fulci's Psychic, which has a 4K coming out from Severin. And this also stars Gian Volante's little brother and Fernando Sanchez, who is a staple in spaghetti westerns. He pops up in the crazy bonkers In the Folds of the Flesh from 1970. Very good actor. So this one is pretty fun. This is kind of a bounty killer in Gianni Garco, and he's a tough as nails kind of guy. Obviously styled in The Man with No Name, with this kind of wandering through town. In the very beginning, he kills a slew of kind of bad guys, and he's going through. He picks out this one guy, and he's driving back and bringing this bounty back, and he spots this bandit, and they make eye contact, and they seem to know what's up, who they are. He gets back to this town, and he notices that that guy's on the wall, and they say that he's very tough right now. He's $6,000, and he says something along the lines like he ain't worth it just yet. This bandit is horrible, so he's actually gone ahead and kidnapped this this rich kind of heavy roller, probably a cattle rancher type deal, his daughter. And this guy offers extra money for this Django. He's not the other Django, right? To go and take on this guy and bring him back dead. He'll get extra bounty. So boom, that's kind of the plot of this movie. What makes it cool is, of course, Volante's little brother has a gang of his own. He's ruthless, he's mean-spirited, but I really like that there's a point where Gianni Garco kind of look for him, and he shows up to his old home village, and he finds his gang and everything, and they're hanging out with Fernando Sanchez, who is the villain's father. And he has all these sheriff badges lined down his chest of all the sheriffs and stuff he killed. And they start to talk, and he says, but you shot them all in the back. He won't show his face. And his introductory of the character of Fernando Sanchez really kind of added something to the movie, kind of added this kind of, it lets you know who the villain was without outwardly saying it, through his father and Gianni Garco, basically how he won't kill somebody unless there's a bounty on it, all this kind of stuff. And of course it comes out to a climax, and it takes some turns too, like you think that the kidnapped girl is going to be so happy that all this stuff is happening, but it's not necessarily that. And of course there's twists and turns and all this kind of stuff here, and it's pretty brutal in some aspects too. I really enjoyed this one. Again, you cannot really trust the main villain, and people bite it that you really don't expect to, which is unfortunate. But this and the other one kind of have a lot of similarities, so they do bleed together in some aspects, and it'd be hard pressed to tell every detail which one is it. They're light sequels to each other, but $1,000 for Blood Money. Make sure I got that right. I really these movies also have 10,000 alternate titles. $10,000 Blood Money is really entertaining stuff. It's good. A solid spaghetti western. Not on my top 10, but probably in my top 20 or something along those lines. I think people would enjoy this one. And Garco is great. Okay, next up is kind of the loose sequel to $10,000 Blood Money. Same director, made the same year. This is Vengeance is Mine, again starring Gianni Garco as kind of the Django-type character. It also brings back the bandit from this one, but this time around he plays his brother. And it's funny because the bandits, he's actually not Django in this one, it's John, which is crazy because the bad guy, the brother, is named Clint. So you have Clint, Eastwood, John, Wayne. One's good, one's bad. Very funny to me, very kind of on the nose. Fernando Sanchez also has a small role in here. And yeah, this one follows the story of two brothers, one of which was double-crossed by his other brother and framed for prison. He went to jail for 10 years, and now he gets out, and he wants to bring justice. He finds out that his mother has passed. His mother made him, told him a promise to a friend, and he must bring back his brother, not kill him unless he fires the first shot. And Garco wants to make him serve the 10 years that he served. But, of course, his villainous brother Clint has done double-crossed a bunch of villains and everything like that, so these guys are hot on his trail, and of course he can't let these guys get his bounty. He can't let them kill his brother before he makes him serve that punishment. So the two form an unlikely relationship, of course, and boom, that's kind of the deal. It does remind me a little bit of a Massacre Time, right? The Lucio Fulci one with Franco Nero and George Hilton, which I think is a better film. I think that's probably one of my favorite spaghetti westerns, but they kind of have that unnatural kind of connection and the brothers and everything like that. But that one ends on a little happier note because Volante's little brother is just ruthless. He's just made to be a villain, to be honest. So as it progresses, there's a couple double crossings and things like that as well. And you know what? In reality, I think I prefer the first one. But they both have their moments, to be honest. So this one has like flashbacks to the point where it reminds me of Once Upon a Time in the West, or for a Fistful of Dynamite. You know, the one flashback with Colburn and David Warbeck where they're running and stuff. Like, there's definitely like this kind of, maybe at one point, a love triangle and a lot of regret and a lot of, I guess you'd say like cheating and all this kind of stuff like that. But you really want the bad guy to bite it here. He's not exactly the most likable guy in the world. The gang is decent. There's a couple villains here that I enjoyed. They kind of show up at the end and they have a little bit more focus on them. But there's points in this film where like a lot of the villains you think are going to be alive a little longer, and then they bite it and you're like, where are we going to carry this on for the next 30-40 minutes or so? I should mention that there is special features on both of these, which I didn't mention on the first one. So let me go through the special features for $10,000 Blood Money. We have, of course, brand new introduction by journalist and film critic Fabio Malelli. He does an introduction for the first two films at least. Brand new audio commentary by film historian Lee Broughton. Tears of Django, newly edited featurette with archival interviews with director Romolo Guerrieri and actor Johnny Yarco. The producer didn't like Western movies. Brand new interview with producer Mino Loy. How the West Was Won. Brand new interview with screenwriter Ernesto Castaldi. That's for $10,000 Blood Money. The features on Vengeance Is Mine. We again have a brand new introduction by Fabio Malini. Brand new audio commentary by film historian Lee Broughton. Cain and Abel, newly edited featurette with archival interviews with Johnny Garco and screenwriter Ernesto Castaldi. In conversation with Norla Orlandi, newly edited archival interview with the film's iconic composer. Movie after movie, brand new interview with producer Mino Loy. Also, Sergio Martino had a hand in these movies, and I should mention that because Martino is very popular when it comes to some crime films, but more importantly for probably people at this channel, fans of this channel, Gialli. He's directed some of the best Gialli, and his brother Luciano Martino and him had a handful of a lot of films, their hand in a lot of films, and a lot of good films too. So yeah. Okay, the next one in the set here is Find a Place to Die. And this is kind of like a ragtag group of people on this half-assed rescue mission. So what we have here is this woman and man. They kind of had like found this gold in the mine that's supposed to be abandoned. There's not supposed to be gold in there anymore, and they're defending against this high, like powered, like Mexican gang in the area. And the husband, who's in a slew of these movies, he's actually in the previous Vengeance Is Mine. He gets injured and he's pinned under this wagon. So she runs away and tries to get help. She runs into this guy, and he's just what's the actor's name? He's kind of a leading man I think I've seen before, but he's not really my favorite leading man from the box set. So he is this kind of sourpuss, and he finds out about the gold, but he's like, all right, I'll help you, yada yada yada. And he gets together a group of bandits, one named Gomez, who knows the Mexican gang, another super strong guy who is in the Leone movies. This guy's he's in a bunch of the Euro crime films as well. I can't think of his name. He's in a million of these movies. Very familiar guy. Then we have kind of a sharpshooter, and then we have this preacher, this kind of evil preacher that they find on the way, and the woman goes also. So you have like this ragtag group of people, which I love that stuff, man on a mission kind of movie, right? What's the one with William Holden, the Western, The Revengers? Kind of like in that vein, they're all kind of criminals, but that one I actually is more of a Dirty Dozen story, which I enjoy. So this group of people go on the way, and of course they don't want to run against the Mexican crime the bandito, but they're gonna have to run into him, right? So they get there and they find out the husband's been killed, and she's basically fighting getting raped by some of these guys the whole time, and that's that kind of deal, right? And eventually they figure out that they're gonna have to have some last stand against this bandito, and there's this big giant shootout and everything like that, and a lot of people do not make it. There's some double crossing and traitors here and everything like that. It's a fun movie. It's good action, good solid set pieces, all that kind of stuff. Very standard, I would say. This is probably the most standard in the set to me, but it does have some of the bigger action set pieces or biggest cast or whatever. I enjoy it. It's a solid spaghetti western with good music and everything like that. As far as the special features are concerned, we have brand new introduction by, of course, the film critic Fabio Maleni, brand new audio commentary by author and critic Howard Hughes. Sons of Leone, newly edited archival interview with director Giuliano Carnimeo. Traditional figure, brand new in-depth appreciation of soundtrack and composer Giovanni Fernando by musician and disc collector Lovely John. So that's very cool as well. Yeah, this is fun stuff. All three are good. None of them knock my socks off, kind of like the one that had their set they put out with Massacre Time, Vengeance Trails, but that just speaks more to me. But I liked every single one of these so far. And the final in the set is Matalo, Kill Him, and this is the most bizarre of the bunch. This is super bizarre spaghetti western film here. This does have Lou Castle in it, or Cassell, I never know how to say his name. I think it's Castle, who pops up and fist in the pocket, and he's in the paranoia with, Carol Baker, the Umberto Lenzi film, which that movie has probably like 5 titles, very confusing, but he's in that one as well. And he's like first credited along with another actor, and I was like, he doesn't pop up for like 30 minutes. I was like, what is going on here? So this one is one of the most bizarre of the bunch. And there's a commentary by Troy Howarth and Nathaniel Thompson, and I was listening to that, and they bring it up, like this is kind of toward the later days, right, of the spaghetti western, or it was very popular in Italy at the time, because like the movie the same year, My Name Was Trinity, and all those kind of movies, They Call Me Nobody, were very popular at the box office, and those are like these spaghetti westerns that are kind of parodying themselves, and they mention stuff like Kioma, or these self-aware, bizarre-ass spaghetti westerns, and this one is in that line where it's not exactly parodying itself, it's dark and weird, but it's aware, and it's just doing these kind of strange, different things that a lot of these spaghetti westerns weren't. It's not a traditional one like the other 3 in the set. I would say this is a non-traditional spaghetti western, or I mean, there is that subgenre that are like that, like I said, like Kioma and those other ones, but this is just a bizarre one. It's weird, the editing is strange, all that kind of stuff, but I mean, when you're saying editing is strange in a spaghetti westerns, kind of defeats the purpose, right? Sergio Leone had all these kind of crazy different soundtrack stingers and editing and freeze frames, all that shit, but this one just feels off. It's just bizarre, and it's maybe a little bit more artsy at the end, how it's filmed and the message and all that kind of stuff. So we have this bandit who's completely untrustworthy, and it starts with his narration at the beginning, which you're like, okay, so we're going to follow this, and it kind of leaves that narration at points, and he just says, you basically get to know who he is through this. He says, if it ain't pinned down, daddy says take it, yeah, all this kind of stuff, greed, greed, greed. And he just pulled this job with a couple other people, and they're just ruthless, of course, they're no good. A couple kind of villainous, really mean-spirited guys and a woman, and they're kind of doing this thing, and they end up holding up at this small town. It used to be ran by this woman named Miss Benson, her husband. It's run down. She's running this kind of small thing, and they like kind of beat her in and beat her up and take over. And Lou Cassell is going through the city as well, and he's dying of thirst, and they beat the shit out of him and torture him. And there's one guy in here, I don't remember his name. He's very creepy and very off, and he's in love with the woman, but she does not kind of have the same kind of feelings about him. But she's a very horrible manipulator at the same time. She's playing all the cards. And at one point, one of the characters bites it, and you really don't know, and there's somebody in the shadows watching, which kind of add this element of, and God said to Cain, which they mentioned in the commentary, which came out in 1970, which had Klaus Kinski in there, and I think it's an Antonio Margheriti movie. I watched it for 1970. It's a cool film, has horror elements, and this has kind of that like weird kind of isolated, creepy elements to it, like High Plains Drifter. But it does have these weird kind of things here, and they do mention that in the commentaries. They mention kind of the horror-oriented spaghetti western, and this one isn't exactly horror, but it moves into that thriller kind of mystery, kind of money scam kind of deal. It's just kind of almost a crime film that takes place in a different period piece crime film, really, at this one. So as it progresses, we learn that all these people want the money, and it gets to the point where it gets like almost like absurdist, when there's a boomerang involved. Overall, it's a bizarre one. I don't know if it's my favorite of the set, but it's most certainly the most standout and memorable of the set. As far as the special features are concerned, we have a brand new introduction by journalist and critic Fabio Malini, brand new audio commentary by critics Troy Howarth, Nathaniel Thompson, which is very good, a Milanese story, brand new in-depth interview with filmmaker Davide Pulcini, discussing the career of Matalo, director Cesare Canevari, Untold Icon, brand new in-depth appreciation of the soundtrack and composer Giuliano Ferrani by music and disc collector Lovely John. So yeah, it's a nice set overall. It's got a nice box set in there. Anytime they bundle like 4 kind of good to great spaghetti westerns or crime films in a set, I really have trouble saying no to that kind of stuff. But I love Arrow. Arrow puts out a lot of cool stuff, and I'd love to see more of these kind of things get put out. But like I said, nice booklet as well, and they've been killing it lately. So there. Oh, I almost dropped everything. But there's the guy I was talking about, that guy who's always in the crime films and everything. But yeah, on to the next. All right, guys, let's get into those 1981 movies.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
Okay, first up is a doozy. I've covered this movie before, so I don't know how much is going to be repeating here, but this is The Pit from 1981. It's a Canexploitation film made in Wisconsin by a guy named, the director here, what was his name? He's a director that I'm not super familiar with, is why I say. Is Lew Lehman, and I think this is the only movie he actually directed. So The Pit, like I said, this is one of these ones that originally was released on Anchorbait DVD. That's probably the first time I saw it. It's based off a novel, actually, called Teddy. Which is fun mentioning because it's just really kind of goes different from the novel. So what we have here is this strange little boy named Jamie, I think Jamie Snyder, and it opens up kind of like showing a kind of a grabber, right? It shows you this scene where these kids are pushed into this pit on Halloween. They're all dressed up. Then we kind of cut back to some of the past a little bit, and we see this kid Jamie, who is just he's an outcast, really. He's young, he's 10 years old. He talks to his teddy bear, it's his only friend, and he's gone through a bunch of babysitters. His parents aren't always there, so they have the babysitter come in, and there's this young girl, she's probably like in her early 20s, she's babysitting Jamie, and she really wants to help him. She seems to have a connection with him, and Jamie immediately is smitten with her. And it's a really bizarre film because like you'll see all these characters that interact with Jamie, and this would be a great kind of double feature with Evil Speak, because poor Clint Howard in that film was constantly being bullied by all these kind of bizarre characters and weird characters and everything like that, like the coach and all this stuff. So Jamie is being picked on by the neighborhood girl, the old woman in the wheelchair, and the librarian doesn't like him, but there's good reason. Jamie is just a creep. He's a weird character. He has a terrarium where he feeds the frogs and all these kind of things, and that's what he likes. You know, he likes feeding the animals, he likes talking to Teddy, but he also likes kind of taking pictures of the librarian naked and taking naked photography and cutting her head off, the head off, and putting the librarian's head on it and sending it to her. He's just an all-around creepy kid with no, very intelligent, but also very outcast-like and just no friends. So one day, Jamie stumbles on this pit in the middle of the woods, and he finds out that there's these creatures down there that can't get out, and they're starving. And he realizes by doing research that they're troglodytes or some sort of, trollocs, the ancient link, the missing link, and they're hairy, creepy creatures. And it's super bizarre because you think this might all be in his head, which is the book was supposed to be suggesting, right, that this was all psychological problems in Jamie's head. But the film being just a film and being exploitative and weird and bizarre, it just goes for it completely, where it kind of throws it out the window. And the first time they throw it out the window here is when Jamie is left the room, the babysitter cleans up the room and leaves the room, and the teddy looks at the camera. So you're like, why are they doing this? If there's no other person on screen, that would be psychologically damaged to believe that the teddy bear is real. It's not for Jamie, it's for the audience, suggesting that it is real in this world. And as it progresses, you would suggest that supernatural elements or strange elements can happen into this world. Not only is there a talking teddy bear with glowing red eyes, but there is a pit with the missing links in there, and they're hungry. So of course he tries to feed them candy bars. But after a while he realizes they need meat, and when he can no longer pay for the meat, he starts to bring people to the pit that were mean to Jamie. So that's kind of the storyline here. Jamie's performance is bizarre and weird. When the creatures get a hold of people at the end of the film, it's pretty gory, pretty wild, and there's this weird kind of comic element with the sheriff who's like, I don't know, they just simply disappeared. It feels very Canadian, but at the same time being made in Wisconsin, it feels very Wisconsin-like too. I love this movie. It's got a weird small town feel. The score is really good. They use like an orchestra. It's better than the movie, and there's an interview with the guy who did the orchestra, and I think he would agree that it's probably more than the movie deserved on the budget. But I just have a fondness to this film. It's super bizarre. It's super weird. It's just uncomfortable, right? In the long line of weird kind of killer kids movies or evil kid movies, this is a great one. It reminds me of The Child, right? From 1977. But the next movie I'm going to talk about is even more like The Child from 81. So this one right here, it's worth your time. If you like bizarre, weird films, this is one that you could watch and try to examine and fall in love with. Or you could just like be like, who the hell thought this was a good idea? Or you could just kind of look at it as something that maybe is so weird it's funny, which I don't really tend to do. I think it's actually got genuinely like creepy moments, and it's genuinely got a nice little small town feel, and it's just a cool story. It's so rare that you have an evil kid, an evil teddy bear, and evil troll things in there, and it's just somehow get the right tone to not make this seem like it's just a smorgasbord of crap, which happens sometimes when you read the backlog line of a movie and it's like with mummies and creatures and zombies and the satanic element of a shower. You're like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and then it just feels like none of it meshes together or something like that. I'm looking at you, Devil Story, but this one for some reason it all meshes, and the way the tone is and how weird it is, it just all feels right. That is The Pit. It does have some special features on here. Audio commentary by Paul Koop of KinExploitation.com and film historian Jason Pichowski. Interview with star Jenny Ellis. Interview with composer Victor Davis. Interview with star Sammy Snyders. Interview with basically screenwriter Ian A. Stewart, and trailer gallery. So anyways, The Pit, great movie. I recommend you guys check it out. Okay, next up is another one from 81, and this is Kiss Daddy Goodbye, and this is an SRS DVD. This is a very old DVD. Very crummy DVD, to be honest, if you guys haven't noticed. But yeah, I've never really heard too many people talk about Kiss Daddy Goodbye, and I reviewed it like 10 years ago, maybe more actually. This DVD's probably 15 years old. I've reviewed one of the first movies I reviewed for my channel, and I hadn't watched it since. So it's 4:3. It looks like crap, the DVD. It's an old DVD. There's a commentary, which is, it's okay. But so basically what we have here is two kids. I think they're actually played by twin brother and sister, and they might be one of the producer or director's kids. And they're just a bizarre group, and they have a bizarre pair. They have telekinetic powers, and their dad keeps them kind of to themselves. They have telepathy and telekinesis. Isolated small town. We kind of are following this new sheriff and kind of a social worker, Marilyn Burns, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Eaten Alive fame, as she comes in and tries to examine the kids and talk to them. And the father is a bizarre character. He wants to homeschool them, obviously, because he doesn't want this power getting out that they inherited from their mother. So after a while, it's kind of set up that there's a lot of bikers who travel around here, one of which is one of the main baddies from Savage Streets with Linda Blair. And these bikers kind of travel around, cause problems. They cause property damage. The kind of the guy around, the housing guy around, who's the not landlord, but the whatever, the guy who sells houses, I can't think of his name, realtor, is played by the guy from Day of the Animals, who kind of wanders into the town by himself at the very end. I can't think of the actor's name, but he's in this, and he's a drunk, and he's an asshole. And he mentions to the sheriff that, damn man, they tear this stuff apart. Can you handle that? Of course, some tragedy ensues when these bikers run into Nicholas, the twins' father, and takes them out. And this leaves these twins to their own devices, and that their devices are going to be telekinetic and telekinesis wildness. So they raise their father from the dead, and they use him as their pawn to kill anyone that upsets them. He chases down a pair of surfers. He fights back at the bikers. All this kind of stuff here. It's slow paced. It's decent enough. It has a regional charm about it. Overall, I enjoy the film. Marilyn Burns is an actress that, like, every time I see her in a movie, the quality is always purposely made to look rugged or different. She always looks different. I can never spot her out. And this picture quality here is pretty rough on Kiss Daddy Goodbye. But overall, I enjoy the film. It's obviously taking from The Child from 77, but more importantly, it's taking from Carrie. It's taking from all those kind of films like that, right? The Bad Seed, Carrie, The Child, and Carrie kind of was like the first one, right, with the telekinetic powers. But yeah, this one also has the mind reading, and they talk to each other in each other's heads. The kids aren't great actors, I'm not going to lie. They're not. They obviously didn't pursue acting very much further than what they did. But it's an all right movie, you know. All the acting in general is not great. The kills are not anything to be amazed about. But if you want kind of like a quiet, slow burn kind of horror film about telepathic kids that kill, then check this one out. You could probably do worse, and it's a little different. Like I said, I like doing the double, the evil kid kind of double feature here. here for 81. Like I said, 81 also has Bloody Birthday, which is another evil kid movie, and there's probably a couple other ones I'm forgetting. A lot of birthdays in 1981, if you guys haven't noticed. Bloody Birthday, Happy Birthday to Me, Madhouse, Allison's Birthday. A lot of fucking birthdays. But anyways, that is Kiss Daddy Goodbye. I think this disc is probably out of print. Maybe VS will pick it up, or Severin, because this one is probably a movie that I think people would like to see in a nice deluxe edition, or at least cleaned up to HD. The next one here is the Patreon pick from, is this Jim Simon who did this one? I always mix his name up because he has a lot of good picks. And this is Faults from 2014. What's the actor in here? I've seen him in stuff. Leland Orser, and he's in a slew of movies. This is actually by the director who did that Art of Self-Defense, which I thought was really good and really bizarre. And this actor, Leland here, he's in Seven, but he's in a slew of movies. He's in The Guest. Always does a great job. And this movie's wild. This is not a movie with a huge cast or anything like that. And you'd also would recognize the girl's parents in here, the ones from Devil's Rejects. They're character actors in a slew of stuff. So Leland is down on his luck kind of expert on cults and all that kind of stuff. That's his MO. He knows all about cults. He knows all about these deals, how to deal with them, how to work with them. But one time, in the very beginning, we see this seminar. We realize he's completely poor and broke. In this seminar with A.J. Bowen, he kind of beats the shit out of him and says, "You're the reason my sister is dead." And we kind of find out that this is where Leland dropped the ball in his life and everything like that. He has a couple famous character actors after him, one in John Grease from, Fright Night 2 and Monster Squad and Napoleon Dynamite, and one who's, I can't think of the actor, recently just passed. He's a good actor, African-American guy. Maybe he's not even American, I'm not really sure, but he's in a slew of movies, to be honest, a ton of movies, and he's in this as well, and they're after him for owing money. And an older couple approach him and say, "Listen, our daughter's been in a cult, it's called Faults. We want her out of the cult. We're willing to pay you to get her out." So they agree to it, and he kind of has these kind of goons kidnap her and bring her to this hotel. And at first she is difficult. She doesn't want to do it. She sits there all day. And as it progresses, they start to talk, and he starts to get these nosebleeds. And you're like, what is going on here? Is it stress? Is he dying? And you start to wonder who's manipulating who in this situation here. And is everybody who they say they are? The father seems to have some sort of weird sexual thing towards the daughter, and it starts getting really uncomfortable, and you can feel the stress on Leland, and he's just perfect for this role, this kind of desperate, swarmy kind of guy. That I won't even say swarmy, desperate, very desperate for sure, but also broken, a very desperate and broken man that and as it progresses, it just gets really crazy and really weird, and the end of the movie's perfect, because it's a movie that you say, how could somebody be put into a cult? How could people be brainwashed into a cult? And when you're watching this, you're like, this is a great way to tackle it. Cults are scary. Losing yourself is scary. Having these wide, crazy changes and is terrifying, and it just works perfectly. It unfolds perfectly. Although it's not a big cast, it's not many locations, somehow the movie doesn't lose your attention. Everybody's very good in it. It unfolds well enough. It keeps intrigue. I thought this was a great movie. This is Faults. This is Yellow Veil Pictures. I would really recommend picking this one out. Riley Stearns did this, and they, like I said, did the movie The Art of Self-Control, which is also a really interesting film. As far as the special features are concerned, we have an introduction by Riley Stearns, new commentary, director and crew, 2015 commentary, director and crew, deprogramming Faults, interview with Riley Stearns, and Lola Blanc, reprogramming Faults, interview with Riley Stearns, The Cub short film, behind the scenes photo gallery, theatrical trailer, and English subtitles. Recommended. Different too. Not exactly a horror film, but definitely a movie that would be popular with horror fans. So yeah, check it out. Questions, comments, concerns, all that stuff. So we have Ken Coakley. Oh, sorry about that. I watched the Costa Nostra trilogy by Franco Nero and Dominio Dominani. I watched the movie on Arrow TV since I can't afford the box set. The Day of the Owl, I couldn't help but think that Serge Riccani, who played Nero's informant, looked like Mr. Bean. I also noticed the mafia guy throwing devil horns at Nero in a scene. It's the first time I saw that film, in an Italian film, even though Ronnie James Dio, who bought that hand gesture to heavy metal, he said it's the first time he saw that in that. So said he learned it from his Italian grandmother. It's very cool. I'm a huge Lee J. Cobb fan, so I knew that I would enjoy his performance. A little bit of trivia. Lee J. Cobb was the first choice to play Mickey in Rocky, but he passed away before it went to the production. He'd have been great at that. He definitely would have been great at that. Sorry, I need some coffee. The Case is Closed, Forget It is my favorite of the three films. Me too. I grimaced when Nero went into solitary confinement, was shown the small pot and being told that it was his toilet. John Steiner's performance was loaded with manic energy, and it was a good counterbalance to Nero's constant apprehension, not knowing who to trust. The courtyard scenes reminded me of the courtyard scenes in Midnight Express. Actually, as a whole, the film struck me as a combination of Midnight Express and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. both great movies. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my favorites, and that's for sure. Midnight Express definitely had that vibe too. I haven't finished How to Kill a Judge yet, so I don't know I have an opinion yet. However, in the questions and comment sections, you were asked what your favorite giallo Eurocrimes film were. My favorite giallo is The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, and my favorite Eurocrime is Brothers Till We Die. Both good ones. And then Nick Moole from Belgium. Creepshow on 4K equals fantastic. Not enough good things can be said about one of the best horror anthologies ever. It will never be outdone. I think you're probably right there. Questions. Why do so many modern anthologies look so cheap and feel so disjointed? Well, they're a bunch of shorts that from different directors, and they throw them together and package them as, one film, but they're really made by 4 different directors. They have no tone. They have no story arc. They just don't go together. It's just like kind of taking a bunch of random things and throwing them together and try to make a movie. Also, there's a lot of low-budget movies being made, and I just don't think that they really make anthologies nowadays. So no big studios are going to do them. It's all going to be low-budget stuff. Have you ever seen Creepshow 3? If so, is it really as bad as I've heard? I've never seen Creepshow 3. I've seen clips of it. The Haunted Hot Dog part made me laugh out loud, but really most people consider Tales from the Dark Side the movie Creepshow 3 by the same production company and Romero and all those people. So I would count that as, and I have seen Tales from the Dark Side the film, and I like it. Are you looking forward to the next Exorcist at all? The franchise doesn't have the best track record. Till next week, enjoy Creepshow on 4K. I mean, I'll give it a shot. I gave the Halloween ones a shot, and I didn't hate some of them more than other people. I liked the last one, which everyone hated, and I didn't hate the first one. The second one I thought was okay. I just don't have much I don't have any fan ownership of The Exorcist or Halloween, so if I find it okay, it's okay. You know what I mean? Then we have Terrence Cover. Thanks for a little shout out and an invaluable review. No problem, buddy. Stephen Hyde, give me a smiley face. Thank you. Fat Pig Conqueror. Buscemi was also in The Adventures of Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon back in the day. Very cool. Explosive Action. Thanks for going into detail on the Costa Nostra set. Your review got me over the line, and I just ordered it. Love me some Eurocrime. Now, if you guys don't know what Explosive Action is, check out his channel. This guy is an action king. He knows all action all day. He's a good guy. And then we have Bad Brains Horror. Boxer's Omen is my #1 Shaw Brothers horror film. It's insane. Really enjoyed The Devil. Huge fan of our nerd films. Not checked out their most extreme films yet, but working up to them. Great reviews. Thank you. Yeah, they got some extreme stuff, and they got the August Underground movies coming soon. That's extreme. Ilk Vomit 88. I go back and forth between Boxer's Omen and Seating of the Ghost. Ted Density. What is this name? Ted Destiny 554. I'm new to your channel, really enjoying your vids. Thanks for the great reviews and recommendations. No problem. Jesse Diaz 1293. The Day of the Owl was on DVD under the title Mafia. It was put out as a double feature with I Am the Law by Wild East. It's ironic because I Am the Law is being put out by Radiance as well as the Iron Prefect. I had the Wild East DVD, but I don't know where it is. Smiley. I actually covered the Iron Prefect the year before. Not last week, the week before that. So then we have Way Up Dude. Second face red heart-shaped. YouTube's weird when you copy and paste. And then last, Kadam 1472. Even later, Busey is great. Always gives 100%. I wouldn't doubt that. It's just that sometimes his 100% is really crazy. Sometimes his 100% in modern times is like 1,000,000%. Love Busey and his old stuff. Like him in a lot of the mid stuff. And then I haven't seen a lot of Busey lately, so I don't know how he's doing. Very short update. I don't really have anything, but I got this VHS tape that I thought was funny a while ago, and I forgot to show it. The cat brought in Chillers, the TV series. It wasn't very expensive. It had Anthony Perkins in it. I just picked it up. I don't really typically collect VHS anymore, but for $1, I was like, why the hell not? So we're out of here, guys. Have a good one. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.